Today is Tuesday, May 11th. The time is 6:31 p.m. I'd like to begin by starting the Ordinance Committee. And today I am the Vice Chair, Juan Anderson Burgos, Ward 6 City Councilor. Our chair could not make it this evening. She had an emergency come up, but could not make the meeting. But we do also have Councilor Murphy, our Ward 2 Councilor, and Mayor. Welcome. And we also have our Councilor Libby Hernandez, Ward 4 Councilor, in attendance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have at large the great almighty Councilor Joe McGiverin. Let's see who else is here. And I believe that's it for councilors. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Here.
Yeah, I see you. I'm sorry. We have also present at large Councilor Howard Graney. So with that said, would somebody do the honors?
Make a motion to start the ordinance meeting.
So moved. Oh, was that seconded?
Second.
So moved. Okay. Now, from what I'm hearing is item 1B, item 1A and 1B, from what I'm hearing that we need to, I guess, let's see. I have notes on here. I'm sorry.
Is that the one they wanted to continue?
Yes, but I have the date on here somewhere.
She said to the
June.
next meeting.
Yeah, and I believe that's she said when?
She said it could be continued to May 25th.
May 25th. Okay.
Yeah, I spoke with her just before the meeting.
Oh, okay. She told me June. Okay, so May 25th. So
do we need to open the public hearing?
Yes.
yes.
First?
Yep. So anybody from the public here to wish to speak on this order? I don't see any hands up.
Yeah.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
So moved. Okay. So that was seconded. Is there any, I don't see anyone raising their hand for item 1.
So I'm going to make a motion that we continue the public hearing to May 25th.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was made and seconded.
And Joe, if that's not parliamentary correct,
No, that's good, but you should give a time too.
at 6:30.
6:30, yes. So May 25th at 6:30, it would be continued till then.
Now you got to vote on it, Juan.
All those in favor?
All those in favor, sorry, thank you. I am so out of it. It's been a long day. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's 3-0. Can I get a motion to take up?
We open up, take up item 2 and open up the public hearing.
Second.
That motion was passed and seconded. So is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on item number 2?
Juan, you got to vote on it too.
Oh. That was voted 3-0. Is there anybody that wishes to speak in the public for item number 2?
Yes.
Okay, so we have Tim.
Whitman from EDM,
Yes.
the architect involved with the project.
Okay.
So,
ahead, Tim.
sure. I will share my screen briefly and just run through, give you a brief overview of the project. I'm working with North Country Production. They're a company who's been working in cannabis production facilities in California, and we are looking to renovate an existing building on 12 Crescent Street at the intersection of Appleton and Crescent. It's a roughly 76,000 square foot facility currently used primarily for warehouse and shipping space. You're all seeing my screen. I hope I should have checked that first. Yep. Okay, good. We have met with the planning board and had some review comments from them, primarily to do with how we are traversing the site. There is site parking across the street, which you see here. We revised the setback ultimately to be 5 feet away from the property line, aligned the pedestrian walk so that it would align with the current curb cut, as well as then noted to provide pedestrian crossing signs. There's currently an existing gate right at the corner, and one of the things we're going to propose based on that meeting is removing that gate and closing off the fence in that location based on that meeting. Essentially, as I said, parking would be across the street. We have a fenced-in area here, which would be primarily for shippings, deliveries, intake, outtake of material, which would be within a secured fenced area. And this is just some overviews of the building itself. It's space on Crescent Street. We aren't really proposing changing the overall look of the building. We're largely going to maintain it, have some fencing across in the current courtyard between the 4-story and the single-story space, and then extend some of the green space in front of the south portion of the building. But largely otherwise, the building would remain more or less as it is on the exterior. In terms of the building program itself, on the first floor, you'd have your clone, transplant, and mother. These will be where the new seedlings are produced and ultimately planted for their initial growth cycle. And then through the 3 stories above, which would largely be the same layout, each of those would have 5 flower rooms for growth, about 2,000 square feet each, and a dry room then for processing of the material. First floor also would contain within it, on the south end of the building, storage and processing and packaging for the materials, which would then be sold to licensed dispensaries in the state of Massachusetts. The basement space is then where we'll have primary water systems, as well as our HVAC and utilities for the building, as well as some degree of exterior on the north face of the building for the chiller, and then also some of the gas tanks needed for the process. That's very high level, very quick overview. Just wanted to make sure you had a basic understanding of what the project is. We also have Brian Bale from North Country Production here, who can speak to what they do as well. Brian?
Yeah, am I on?
Yes.
Yes, Brian.
Okay, sorry. Hi, Brian Vale with North Country Production. We're a cannabis operator currently in California. We've desired to basically move our branding back to the East Coast. After a couple of years, we kind of settled on Holyoke. We kind of found that it was probably the best suited city to start a cannabis endeavor back there. Just water, utilities, infrastructure seem to be fairly pro cannabis. What we do is we are just solely a grower of flower, and we package that flower into eighth and half ounce jars, and we also do pre-rolls. We sell only to licensed dispensaries. There's no retail component as part of this application. There's no in California, the terms are different. There's no manufacturing, even though your license calls it manufacturing. Since you grow cannabis, there's no manufacturing. So there's no edibles, there's no other cartridges or anything. So we are solely a flower producer and seller. Currently, we're probably one of the top recognized brands in California, and just really see a strong opportunity back in Massachusetts. And then, if things become federally legal, it just seemed like a very good locations for the East Coast. This isn't my main job. I kind of backed into it. I had an investment company too, but I've been active in this business now for about 5 years. And so I'm open for any questions you may have about our company or the project.
I'd like to recognize Joe.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
And gentlemen, welcome. And thank you for showing an interest in Holyoke. Could someone tell me how many employees you plan to hire?
Yeah, so right now, just from basically our similar operations, our current operation is probably about a third of the size of this. And we currently in our current operation employ approximately about 30 to 40 people. And sometimes on a part-time basis, when the flower is trimmed, another 20 people. We anticipate this will probably be 50 to 60 employees. I forgot to mention our plan for positive impact. We're working with One Holyoke, Elevated, and the Holyoke Community College. So the desire is just to basically hire, extensively Holyoke residents. We've agreed to do job fairs and scholarship programs with Elevated because the community college can't take money. So we do it through Elevated, but we plan on doing job fairs and to employ locally. Our jobs, eventually can be pretty high paying jobs. The master cultivator, gets paid between our current one in California. I'm not exactly sure how it'll go there. Currently gets paid about $90,000 a year plus bonuses. Salespeople make anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 a year plus some extra commissions. And then we have a handful of, I wouldn't say we pay over minimum wage, but we have a handful of minimum or kind of living, prevailing wage type of salaries. But we anticipate, ultimately this would probably be 60 to 70 people is kind of roughly the idea. Maybe in some cycles where it might be higher than that.
And Brian, when you say 60, 70, how many shifts do you anticipate? How many people would be working at the same time?
So we only run, we run basically one shift, with the exception is cultivation gets there really early in the morning, like at 5 a.m. and they leave like at 3 a.m. and the site kind of shuts down. The packaging and the sales side gets there usually between 8 and 9 and they leave at like 5 o'clock. There's the only nighttime employees would be security guards. And on weekends, cultivation, someone always has to go there to check on the plants on the weekends. So on weekends, there's like a skeleton crew that would be the kind of the same cultivation hours that would get there like at 5, 6 in the morning and leave at 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 in the afternoon. About a 24-hour security guard at all times.
And parking, can you, either you or Tim, be a little bit more in detail about where these 60 people are going to park?
So our intention as it's planned right now is, as I said, we have the parking across the street, and if we ultimately need the number, there is a paved space to the north of the building here, which potentially can also be expanded parking if needed.
And Tim, both parcels are owned by the
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, we are currently in contract to purchase the building. We close escrow in, I think, just under 30 days.
And Tim, I think you said you're not going to do much to the outside of the building. Is there going to be a little bit of improvement to the facade? And
Yes. Yeah, there are going to be a couple of openings that are going to be infilled more for security purposes than anything else. And it's when we do that, it will be done to essentially match up with the adjacent assemblies.
Thank you.
Yep, Terry, I see your hand is up. I want to first acknowledge committee member Ward 5 Councilor Linda Vacan is she's in the meeting Just, you can't see the video, but she's here. I just wanted to recognize her. Councilor Murphy, you have the
Thank
floor.
you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, thank you, Brian and Tim, for coming. I grew up walking by that building many a times when I was in my younger days, going from one ball field to another. But let me similar to what Councilor McGivern, I do think I looked at that spot where you have parking. I'm assuming that probably is no more than maybe 16 to 20 spots. And am I about correct?
Yeah, we're about 20.
Yeah, so I would have a little concern with that, just in terms of, because if I'm not mistaken, there's a couple houses towards Spring Street, right? That would be your neighbors.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think part of the process, what we're again, I think ultimately we're going to phase into this. We gave you the ultimate build out numbers.
Yeah.
And so we'll phase into it. Ultimately the thought process is, hopefully there's some carpooling and or people live close by actually can walk there.
Yeah.
There's the very, very large vacant lot in the front at Appleton and Crescent
Right.
that is already paved. It's currently paved. We kind of, part of the reason is in talking with Public Works and stuff like that in the beginning, it just closer to the intersection, cars driving in and out wasn't really their kind of desire, so to speak. And so there's offsite parking spot came with the property. So we thought we'd initially start there. And if there was a need, we would basically expand parking into the other side, the pink site that he's highlighted.
Right, and where I've placed the arrow is where
Yep.
the current access point is.
And that would be, and to me, that would be a good way to enter and exit based on the traffic on Appleton Street. Going out that way would be far worse. The traffic on Crescent Street is not that great.
Correct. And
just
that's
to-
why we're closing off the fence that's in that area.
And the other thing with the houses, if you do put the parking there, I would just ask you to try to put some shrubbery just to kind of make it a little bit nicer than just having, I know there's an empty, if I'm not mistaken, there's an empty spot there now, correct?
It's a vacant paved lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we will do whatever landscaping or whatever screening the city wants. We kind of, it's not really, you can't really see it, but on the to the far right of the image where we're enclosing a couple of those things, we actually have a landscaping plan there also. So it's not just, there's just a small little grass area. We've actually expanded that area right there.
Okay.
And we actually have a proposed planning plan in that area.
Yeah, I think this is, I've seen that warehouse be very neglected for a long time. So I'm very happy to see that. I would also, along the same lines as Councilman McGivern, I'd like to, I recall that at one time where there were windows, and instead of those long, I don't know what I'll call them, but long sheets that are just covering up the windows, I'm assuming. So it would be good if we could open some of that just to make the building more attractive. And you are going all the way to the small one-story building as well, correct? You're going, that's all of yours, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
the one-story building is where we would do the processing. We have like a commercial industrial packaging machine and stuff like that. So that's where we do all the labeling, the processing. We'd have secure vans that would be enclosed in there where we load the vans up for delivery to the dispensaries in those locations.
Okay. And just one last thing, and I appreciate the potential salaries. I know California is probably a little higher than what we're going to get around here, but that's okay. If we're in the ballpark, that would be good. I just would encourage you. I mean, there are a number of families, parents that have their kids in the elementary schools that are in the area. That might be a good area to reach out in terms of employment opportunities, both to make people aware of what you are and our jobs that you're offering, but also, then I would ask you to potentially tie into the schools and see if you can put some programs together for those schools. Those kids, I mean, many of them are living in, I won't say, they're living in not the easiest life. And if they could have a, opportunity to get some athletic programs, cultural programs or anything like that, and you're working with the parents as employees, that would certainly be a benefit to those neighborhoods. So I appreciate
Yes.
your investment.
So real quick,
Go
one thing, and the state requires, everyone obviously be to 21 years old. Holyoke Community College actually has a cannabis program there, which is actually the only one in the country. So we've been working really closely with them. As far as the state also in the plan for positive impact, you actually have to really actively search employing people that have had have been affected by negatively affected by drugs or convictions and stuff like that, and try to employ those people. So it's a very high standard, and so absolutely it's first required by the state, and obviously we would be wanting to work with the community. I mean, I haven't spent a ton of time in Holyoke, but I always tell my friends what a cool city it is, and I can't imagine that city back in the turn of the century, how crazy it must have been.
Yeah. And again, I appreciate your investment, and I will be in touch with you in terms of maybe going to some schools when they have community events and just kind of introduce yourself.
Yep.
I've had a few meetings at Morgan School where other cannabis dealers have come in and introduced themselves, and I think have made some contact to get good employees. So thank you very much for your investment.
And we're doing with One Holyoke, we're actually sponsoring a monthly. So when they do their Keep It Clean program, we're going to actually have them meet at the site. We're going to actually have coffee, the materials for them to use, let them use our vans for disposing of stuff. But at least once a month, we will be sponsoring the Keep It Clean program with One Holyoke.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Juan.
Thank you. Are there any other committee members that would like to weigh in or have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, so at this time, I'd like to, first of all, welcome Ward 3 Councilor David Barley, and you have your hands up, so you have the floor.
Thank you. Can we go off the shared screen? I don't think I need that anymore. Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, thanks. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for your investment in Holyoke. I was on the Ordinance Committee for 6 years, and I was pretty involved with writing the ordinances for the cannabis community going forward. So we pretty much innovated our way through it, and we reached consensus on City Council. And one of the main things we did was that we directed the cannabis community to the IG zone. And why do we do that? Well, we did that for the reason you just heard the prior speaker, who, by the way, is the acting mayor. Whether you don't, I'm not sure if you gentlemen know that, but he's the acting mayor. The other mayor is, and the former mayor is, he left and he's in Provincetown now. And so the acting mayor is with us, and we're grateful that he's on this committee. But the reason we did that is the exact reason that he referenced, and that is there was zero investment. There was no hope of investment in any of these buildings, no hope whatsoever. And now I see that building sold recently, and I understand from you that you're going to obtain site control on your own. Is that what I heard you say, Brian? That you're in the process of purchasing it, and your company's going to close on the building?
Yeah, so we've gone non-refundable with the purchase of the building. We have non-refundable deposit. We've actually, with the building plans, we've already started working on the building plans. We spent a couple $100,000 on improvement plans for the building. But yeah, we have every intention of closing, and the closing date, I believe, is mid-June, not July, mid-June.
So again, I appreciate, I want to extend my gratitude to you and to your company and to your investors for investing in the city of Holyoke, because it means a lot. Without this investment, all these buildings, all the one on Hadley Mills Road, on Appleton Street, et cetera, it wasn't going to happen. There was no hope whatsoever. So that's the good news. The other, and I have a comment for the committee in a second, but I just want to ask Brian quick. Brian, you made a comment, and I took a note when I joined the Zoom meeting, and it was something about Holyoke Community College, and you couldn't. I probably misheard you, but so you indicated, I thought I heard you say to the effect that you could not donate to the college, but I wasn't clear on where argument was going with that. Could you just clarify?
Yeah,
that
no.
point?
As part of our plan for positive impact, we wanted basically, they have got I forget what the program's called, but they've got the program with Elevated. That's kind of like their cannabis education program. And so we were going to donate to the community college for that program, but and I'm going to forget, isn't it John? I'm going to forget the first name. I apologize, at the community college, but he informed me that they're not allowed to physically take any donations. So what they do is they do in partnership with Elevated. So I make the donation through Elevated. Elevated sponsors the scholarship program for residents to attend some of these cannabis education programs at the community college. So there's
I can assure you,
yeah.
I can assure you, Brian, that well, first of all, you're very gracious in doing that. So, and I'm not here to get in your pocket more than a regular city councilor would. Okay. But I can assure you there's a foundation at the college. I can assure you of that. And so if in fact your entity was interested, you could probably reach out to the foundation chair. And
it has something to do with cannabis, Anyways, I'll reach out back to him, but so part of what we want to do is make sure that we employed local residents. So one of the things that we targeted with our plan for positive impact was to basically do scholarships. And so it was really a scholarship program. So residents could get scholarships to attend some of these cannabis education classes.
This is fantastic. Another way for your consideration is that through Holyoke High School, you can donate to Holyoke High School or Dean Technical High School to say that a graduate going to HCC entering the Cannabis Program would receive a scholarship for, $500 or whatever it is you want to.
Right.
So that those would be two other opportunities. And I don't want to just limit to Holyoke as well, although we're counselors. And, we heard last night, Finance Committee, just how ungracious the cities of Northampton, the town of South Hadley, the town of Hadley are to the city of Holyoke, which those of us that lived here for more than a minute realize that, because we all know that they think they're smarter than us. But I would ask you to maybe consider reaching out to those neighboring communities too, because those have, they have plenty of blue collar kids in Hamp and in Westfield and West Side and Springfield, etc., Chicopee, Hadley, plenty of blue collar kids that would love an opportunity to work in this field if they could go to HCC. And my father was president of HCC for 29 years, and he always said it was the regional community college based in Holyoke. So I just want you to consider that. So there's many opportunities for that. The other thing I just want to mention to you is your board is, I hope, and my notes here are atrocious, but your board, I hope, is aware that generally, when I was on this committee for 6 years and we crafted the ordinance, we always had 6 standard contingencies to the special permit. To wit, they were, preference to Holyokers. You've already talked about that. You would always pay a commercial tax rate, regardless of whether there's change in federal, state, or local law. You would give a preference for security to former Holyoke police officers or police officers from other communities that live in Holyoke. So I want to mention that there no deliveries, and there are a couple others that I'm just remiss. I know our administrative assistant, the vice chair's husband, who's on this meeting. I can see him. There he is. He would have the 6 standard contingencies. Okay, so Juan has those. So as a vice chair, he came prepared. So I would hope that these would, when somebody in the committee makes a motion to add them as contingencies to the special permit, that you would consider them in this light, that they've been universally applied.
Mm-hmm.
So not one entity has gotten away scot-free without these. So I hope you would just we didn't try to make them owners. We just try to make them Holyoke centric. And so I can see with your hand up, Brian. So go ahead.
Yeah. So they're part of they're part of your host agreement. They're built in, all those 6 are built in your host agreement. We have fully executed the host agreement with the city. And so that was basically the day we got there, the day we just selected Holyoke. We worked with John at city staff, and
John Dijak?
Yes, John Dijak, and we fully executed the host agreement. So, which has list all those standards that are requirements, the tax, employing, I think the employing so many residents, city police, et cetera. We've also, we have our security plan has been signed off by the city police department. So I've met with Captain Moriarty. Is that right? Michael Moriarty. Moriarty. So I've met with Michael. I did a site visit with him. We walked the whole property with him. We went through, he had some training things that he wanted us to add to the plan. And so we've added that to the plan. And he's approved our plan for the security. But so absolutely 100% what we do is, my main background, I was a land developer. I did master plan communities throughout California, Nevada, and Hawaii. And one of the things we always pride ourselves on is to be very active in the community. I'm not a type of person likes to go in there, make my money and leave. Honestly, I'm looking to move to the East Coast. My daughter's a graduate. I'm going back there right now. She's graduating from Boston College. So my desires is actually to move back to the East Coast.
Well, so you might as well learn, if you're going to move back to Holyoke, you might as well learn how to pronounce the name Moriarty. It's pretty. I mean, not everybody's named Vale or Woodman here. I mean, I'm sorry that we have names with more than one syllable. On here, I apologize for that, but you're going to have to adapt somehow. And yeah, I think that's great, and I can see why you're in the cluster with Hadley Mills, and you know where you are. There's a little bit of a cluster happening there. There was another cluster in other parts of the lower ward, the flats as we call it. And
right.
Again, this is you're to be congratulated. This body has, without exception, approved every single license that's come before us. So I don't think we've denied one, maybe temporarily for a little respite, a little cooling off, but ultimately, and we don't have a cap on it either, like other communities. So it was something that we as a ordinance committee and ultimately as a government, we thought it was, you know, the best way, and we're beginning to see the fruits of that coming through. And I wish you nothing but tremendous success, and we hope you hit it out of the park with your product. So I just hope that the committee, when the time comes, if you close the public hearing, that the committee will just add those exceptions, because it sounds to me like the vendor is already green lighted them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. So to follow protocol, I missed a step, so I want to entertain a motion for someone to open the public hearing.
We did that when we did that one.
Are you sure? Because I don't remember.
We took it up, and Libby and I made the motion. Libby made it, and I seconded it, vice versa. Yeah. We did in the beginning.
Okay, and I thought I did, but someone sent me a message saying, I don't think you opened up the public hearing. I was like, you know, the kind of day I had today, and this being thrown on my lap at the last second, I'm like, did I? So, okay, so let's continue. Thank you.
My recollection, you
Thank you so much. All right, so moving on. Is there any other committee? There was no other committee member that wanted to speak. Linda, did you have anything to say?
I just wanted to say I'm happy to be here with full functionality at last. I was on the phone, I was on the Zoom, but you couldn't hear me. And so now I finally made it.
Linda's multitasking. It's great when technology works. So let's see. Okay, let me get everything in order here. So I guess, and wait a second, I believe there is, the city auditor had her hand. Tanya, did you want to weigh in on something? I saw your hand was up earlier. Is she on mute, Jeff?
She's on telephone. I don't think she knows her hand is up.
No,
Oh.
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I put up my hand. I meant to unmute myself, so I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. Okay. So let's see.
Mr. Chairman.
Are there
Yeah.
any members
Can
of
we just ask if there's anybody that wants to speak from the public?
That's what, yeah, I was about to ask. Anybody?
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, I know. It's okay. Thank you. That's where we're all here. We all help one another. So anybody from the public that would like to speak now or forever hold your peace. And I do have something to read into the record, an email that came through. I'm sure all the counselors must have seen it by now. So if there's no one from the public that would like to speak, I'm going to read this into the record. Okay, so this is an email from the abutter, Bill Johnson. It says here, on behalf of my family, I wanted to send an email in support of the special permit for North Country Productions at 12 Crescent Street. We are direct abutters as we own property adjacent from the train station onto Main to Appleton. Although not adjacent, we also own property on 358 Main and 555 South Canal. Regards. So this is a good neighbor. And let's see. So I guess my comments or thoughts would be to Brian, Tim, or Nick, not Nick, Chris, if Chris is here. Were you guys able to look at the recommendations from the engineer, or were you guys in contact with the engineer through this process? And have you obliged by what was referred, not only from the engineer, but also the planning department's recommendations? Have you guys followed these or read these? Or are you aware of these?
Yeah, this is Brian. So there were basically a couple communications. We had our pre-application meeting with the various departments, and any comments from that pre-application meeting have been addressed. We also received some other staff comments and public works comments, and 100% of the comments have been addressed and incorporated with no variations or deviations. 100% accepted.
Okay. All right. And you went over the planning department's recommendations as well?
Yes.
Okay. And any of the committee members, have you any questions regarding the planning department's recommendations or the engineer's comments? This also goes out to city councilors who are on this call. It doesn't look like there's any. I guess would someone like entertain the motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's 4-0.
Well, we got to vote yet.
All those in favor?
Oh, sorry. To close the meeting. That's
Right.
sorry.
You have a motion, so now we just have to vote.
Okay, so on the motion
Aye.
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 to approve the application, obviously, right?
No,
Okay,
that's just,
so not to
that was
close
just
it, right?
closing the public hearing,
Okay, so that's 4-0.
but that's closing the public hearing. We
Yes,
haven't voted
closing
on
the
the
public hearing,
application. Okay.
right. Okay, so
Yes.
based on our findings and everything we went through in our communications with the applicant, everything does seem in order, but I do want to read our 6 conditions, our 6 standard conditions.
Yep.
That we ask all applicants to agree and abide by, which is 1, the owner of the building always pay commercial property tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for the duration of the special permit. 2, that the business retain a minimum of 30% Holyoke residents for non-security jobs. 3, that hiring preference be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or are a retired member of another police department that now lives in the city of Holyoke. 4, there shall be no marijuana consumption to be allowed on site. 5, there shall be no deliveries of retail or medical marijuana from the site to individual homes, residences, or people. 6, that hours of operation be set according to the city ordinances. Do you agree to all these conditions?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So with that said,
I'll offer a motion to approve the special permit with the 6 standard conditions and that they remain in compliance with the recommendations from planning and DPW.
Second.
okay, so can I get everybody a vote yes?
All those in favor?
All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's 4-0. Congratulations, gentlemen. Welcome to
Thank-
the city of Holyoke, and thank you for choosing Holyoke.
Thank you. Very
Thank you
excited.
very
Really,
much.
really, really looking forward to it. Really
Thank
super
you.
looking forward to it.
Oh,
Thank you.
just a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Sure,
Gentlemen, you're not there yet. So,
No, I know.
It has to go to
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
body recommends, and then the full city council, and that includes myself, which is that's exciting. We get to vote next week on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yep,
Quite
very
aware.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving along, we have. Can I get a motion to take up item number 3?
So moved.
Okay.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's 4-0. Item number 3, ordered that the city council create a revolving fund to be set up for the city's municipal rideshare funding received by the state through the Transportation Network Company. It's funny, it says see attached, but let me see, where is it? I have the legal form. Did everyone receive the legal form for this, by the way? I want to ask that.
Yeah, I think I got that one.
Linda, did you get it?
I'm not sure if I saw every attachment that we got from Jeffrey. I'm not sure that I recognized it as that. Jeffrey, did he send it to us with all the other attachments? Do we
Yeah,
know?
it was sent
Yeah.
yesterday afternoon.
Libby, did you get it?
Yes.
Okay.
I can screen share it if that's required.
That
Yeah,
would be
could you-
great.
Yeah, please. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that'd be good.
And I do have a question for Jenna, legal, on the legal form. Jenna, are you available?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Jenna, do you know where we are with the threshold, the $7,500 threshold?
I believe Tanya, sorry, hold on.
Oh, I think, Jenna, are you, there we go.
I'm here. I apologize. Just trying to get to a quieter area. I believe Tanya, and I apologize, I'm going to say her name, Wojak is on this call as well. My understanding from speaking with her today is there is no $7,500 expenditure.
Jenna, I'm sorry, but for the public record, I just want to make sure I hear you clearly, and we're having trouble hearing you. Just for the public record's sake.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I was just saying that Tanya Wojak is also on this call. I apologize, I've been saying her name wrong.
It's okay.
The $7,500 limit where we left off, I believe that there is no requirement, but she could speak more to that there is no $7,500 threshold. That would need to be reflected in the legal language.
Okay. Before, I should have asked, and I apologize. Any committee members want to speak on this before I reach out to the department heads?
Okay.
And any counselors that we have on the call wanted to speak on this before I reach out to any the department heads? No. Okay, Tanya, did you want to weigh in, or did you have any comments to add?
I actually do. Thank you. The wording on the order specified a $7,500 limit for appropriation from City Council. But in between our meetings, I did receive some guidance, a local finance opinion that actually says that this revenue is a receipt reserved for appropriation, and that all of the expenditures must be voted on by City Council. So that $7,500 should, instead of that, it should say must be voted on by City Council, or must be appropriated by City Council for expenditure.
So do you said, Joe, were you done, Tanya? Sorry.
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, Joe, did you want to weigh in?
If I could, through a chair, a question for our auditor.
Absolutely.
Tanya, at previous meetings, on almost all revolving funds, I've raised concerns about balancing the budget, and revenue that goes into a revolving fund does not get counted as balancing of the budget itself. I know we're talking about some good uses here and don't want to stop that, but are you saying now that the appropriation is made and this becomes part of the city budget?
Actually, what I'm saying is that Mass General Law and the Legal Finance Opinion actually states that from fiscal year 2019, we should have actually already had a fund created for these particular revenues. And all the receipts should have been put in there up until this time, and that they should stay separate from the general fund and appropriated accordingly based on allowable expenses by vote of the City Council.
And that's on the appropriation side. So my question is it become part of the budget where we vote on when it's expended side?
If you appropriate it for expenditure, it will go into the general fund. I don't know if that's the question that you're asking. It won't be included.
It is more or less, but the revolving funds aren't typically part of the general fund, correct?
Correct. And this revenue should have never gone into the general fund to begin with. It should have always been kept separate from the general fund. The guidance is from like 2018.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just a bit confused. So the city council votes to appropriate it. We receive it as revenue, designate it, and put it into a fund. And then the fund is used how?
And then you can appropriate, just kind of like what you do with stabilization. You take a vote and you appropriate expenditure into the general fund for projects that are allowable via the transportation infrastructure.
And stabilization is a 2/3 vote. Would this be a 2/3 vote?
I feel like I have the document here. It actually doesn't say 2/3 vote on it, but I'm sure I can find that information for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to recognize Linda Vacan.
Thank you. So I guess what we need to do at this point is we would need to send the legal form back to legal so that they can amend it to bring it into compliance with the law. And on the votes, I would just note that we have to follow our rules unless they are overruled by a higher authority relative to the number of votes required. Thank you.
David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would, though I'm not on this committee, I would strongly urge you to send this back to legal to amend the language so you're not dancing around tonight. Furthermore, as the Ward 5 Council just said, if you want to put a more stringent standard, you can, but you can't amend to a less stringent standard. So our rules require a 2/3 vote, regardless of whether it's in that language. But just for lack of, for let me say in the positive, for clarification, I would suggest that the body consider specifying that explicitly within this. And just if I may, what is this about? Because I probably missed the preamble to this. So just through the chair to the auditor, if I may,
Sure.
what is the amount of money we're talking about, and what's the purpose of this special fund?
So we get per ride assessment revenue from the state for Uber and Lyft rides.
Oh, okay.
And it's not, I mean, the first year we received 7,000, the second 12, and the third 16,000. So it's obviously going up. What we need to do is we need to be able to report on this funding and what we're spending, because it has to address the impact of transportation network services on our city. And when we went to actually report on it, there wasn't really a lot of information. The funding was not kept in a separate fund. So it was hard to actually create the report. And in that case, I was like, well, this should be kept separate. And I started speaking to the auditor and the state, and they said, no, this should be receipts reserved for appropriation. It should already be, as soon as they receive the information, the fund should have been created, and this should have already been done years ago. So I'm just trying to get it to the point where the money is in the account like it should be. It's reserved for appropriation by the city council, and that we're obviously spending the money on allowable expenditures for these particular receipts.
Okay, so Tanya, can I ask you this question then? So if the funds were in the general fund now, I'm going to presume you're going to need an appropriation to the special revenue fund that we're going to request. So Ordinance Committee is going to do this. Then at some point, I would imagine you're going to have to talk to the acting mayor and ask the acting mayor, based upon your recommendation, what funds came from Uber. And thank you for the recap, because it's all come back to me now. You're probably going to need to have an appropriation from the general fund back to the special revenue account. And then, that's just for, housekeeping stuff, but nevertheless, it's important to have an audit trail. So I hope you do that. And then just what kind of activities? What's something in the transportation network? For just, do you have an example of what these are used for?
So you're going to hear my dog bark. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you fine.
It says purposes of expenditures to address the impact of transportation network services on municipal roads, bridges, and other transportation infrastructure or any other public purpose substantially related to the operation of the transportation network services in the city or town. That's what it should be spent on.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty unspecific, but that's good. That's pretty darn broad. So I guess you can spend it pretty much on road related matters. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Linda, did you still?
Oh, I'm all set. If others aren't wanting to speak, then I would just ask that we send it back to legal to get it in line with what our auditor is recommending according to the state law, and eliminate the numerical amount. And we could also clarify the 2/3 vote if it's the wish of the committee.
Libby, did you?
Thank you. Yes, I have a question. So if I was hearing this right, there's monies that we get from this Uber Lyft, but they were placed in a general fund instead of being in a separate account, right? So now we're trying to get it to where we're in compliance, but the money that has been placed in there in that general fund, have we invested it in these things that are being spoken about here? Is that money still there?
I don't believe so, because it's general fund, but.
Oh, okay.
So
No, go ahead.
Answer?
Yes, please.
So the first year and the second year, yes, we had to report out on those funds that we received. And this year, now that we've caught up to it, we want to put the revenue from this year into this fund and continue on with the same work.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
So back to the motion, I believe, Councilor Vacan, you were making a motion?
So I would offer a motion that we send this back to legal to have it revised to come into compliance with the recommendations of our auditor under the state law, and that we also clarify the 2/3 vote on the appropriations.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 4-0. Okay, so now we're on to item number 4.
Make a motion to take up item number 4.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Okay. Item number 4, presented by Councilor McGivern, that the city council remove the enterprise fund status of the wastewater treatment plant. Any of the committee members have questions or want to speak on this item? Linda, your hand's up. I'm not sure if that's from before.
Well, it is from before, but also my recollection was we wanted to get some feedback from
Sure.
legal regarding, first of all, changing the status. And then just recently we received the budget letter from our acting Mayor Murphy, who, in which our auditor had informed us that most communities in the state maintain this type of fund as an enterprise fund. So it seems like that appears to be the prudent way to run it. But on the other hand, I guess there's more than one right way. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did the maker of the order wish to speak?
So I don't have to repeat what I said at the original meeting when this was first aired out. I'd just like to add, I understand enterprise fund is about accountability, and that's why most cities would want accountability for an enterprise fund. The wastewater treatment plant is about a user fee, and the mandated services, the mandated treatment that we have to provide is about how we pay for it, because the federal government is not doing a great job of helping us pay for this incredible old infrastructure and separating our combined sewer overflow system. So the issue, the reason I filed this, the issue is it's critical, especially this year, but it has been in the past, is we have a $1.9 million, close to $1.9 million deficit in the sewer treatment plant right now. We heard from our superintendent, a good part of that deficit is created by unpaid bills. They feel part of it is because they've lost the ability to chase people who are paying bills late, because the water department under COVID cannot shut water off. We already have a deal with the water department that if sewer bills are not paid, water can be shut off. So because that's not happening, we have an extra burden, an extra amount added to the deficit, which is critical. Now, the reason I'm saying it's critical is we've created an ordinance that says the city council creates the sewer rate itself, which is nice to give us the control, but the sewer rate doesn't equal the deficit. and believe me, I'm not talking about unpaid bills as much as I'm talking about that $1.9 million or $1.3 million, whatever it's going to be at the end of this fiscal year. Excuse me. Whatever it's going to be at the end of this fiscal year is coming off our budget. And it's going to take away from police, public safety, fire, all the services that we offer, because it'll be a lot of less money we'll have to use on what we want to do as a city. So if we're, and I'm not suggesting that we make up the entire unpaid bills, with the sewer increase, but what I'm suggesting is we do something quick to make the sewer rate in line with the operating cost of the sewer treatment plant itself. And under an enterprise fund and the city council creating the ordinance for a rate, we take that ability away from the DPW commission. We just gave our former city councilor, Patty Devine, a lot of accolades when we confirmed her appointment. And I think we should let the DPW commission do what their job is. But I think we've got to get this deficit away from the city budget, or we're just going to be using tax dollars to pay for the wastewater treatment plant. And I don't think that's what the homeowners and commercial business owners of this city want.
Councilor Bacon? And
I would just note that I have an order drafted in my email to return the rate setting authority back to the DPW if any members of the committee want to sign on. Thank you. or otherwise on the council.
Terry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So obviously, you've got my letter, and it is a major issue. And it's, some of it is unpaid, but a good portion of this, a significant portion of the deficit is not unpaid. It's just that we don't have enough of a fee to be able to do it. Now, one of my goals in the letter that I sent out was to get to the point where not only do we have a fee that meets our needs, but that we still go out and try to collect the uncollectibles, which that have not been collected. Once we're in that situation, we can shut off water and things. And then that would allow us to be able to have some stability without having to have a tremendous peak in terms of sewer rates. Whether we do it from the city council or through the DPW, somewhere down the line, we got to do it. And having to plan the budget, it really demonstrated the negative impact that it can have. And I realize it's costly, and it's going to be a major impact on residents and businesses. And that's why I suggested the other alternative in my letter, that we can't do it all. We shouldn't do that plus all the property tax increases at one time. And what I suggested would spread that out over 2 years, but get the sewer wastewater treatment plant budget balanced, so it's not continuing to have a negative impact on the general fund. And with that, I would have probably been in a position to do quite a bit more in terms of the general fund, in terms of what we're doing with services. And there's a lot of services that I've tried to enhance, but I could have enhanced more, and quality of life issues that I know we all hear about. And so that's, one way or the other, we've got to come to a resolution, and we can't keep waiting. The longer we wait, the harder it gets.
Yeah. Did any other committee member have any comments? Wanted to weigh in? I'll recognize at the moment at-large Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to accept Councilor Bacon's offer, and I'll call the city clerk tomorrow and be glad to co-sponsor that.
Add my name, please.
Okay.
I do, any counselor out there want to speak on this matter? I see a hand up from one of the department, Tanya, City Auditor. Would you like to speak on this matter, on this item?
I actually would, but I don't know how to take down my hand, so I do apologize. I think it's *9. Is that correct?
Yeah, there you go. *9.
Okay. So I do want to say that the enterprise fund itself, I agree with everything that everybody said. And in the end, what happens is if they're not paying it through their sewer rate, they are paying it through their taxes because it's on our tax recap form. So that deficit is impacting the taxpayers, whether they're paying it through their sewer rate or their taxes. That's all I wanted to add.
I guess if we look at it, which poison? What's the will of the body? Do I have a motion? Oh, Joe?
I would just ask if the committee would indulge me to table this, and we can match it up with the incoming order about the sewer rate and have a good, healthy discussion about it all together.
Yeah.
I'll offer a motion to table.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 4-0. Okay, so it's been tabled to, is May 25th okay, Joe? Does that work? Next meeting?
You don't have to give it a time specific, Mr. Chair, because
Okay.
it's not a public hearing. So you can just leave that up to the chair.
Okay.
Right. May take us a couple of meetings.
Kind of figured. So we're now at item number 5.
Take 5.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0. So item number 5 is presented by Councilor Bartley, that the city of Holyoke ordain a no left turn sign into the former Kmart Plaza from Whiting Farms Road As background, the sign was installed years ago. Holyoke Police Department issued many tickets that judges have dismissed because Holyoke never ordained the sign into law. And then it says refer to Ordinance Committee and Law Department for legal language. So I'm going to ask the body, did you all receive the legal language? If not, I can ask Jeff to put that on screen for us so that we can all take a look and agree on it.
Did the maker get to see it?
Yeah, that's
I haven't, but I'll find it.
David, if you'd like, we can put it on the screen too.
No, I can I mean, you can put it on the screen. That's fine. I
just to make it easier.
Easy.
Yeah.
There we go.
I have it. Oh, there you go. Okay,
Okay.
that's
How's that look?
pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Good to go?
I just want to make a comment if I could, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
So I wrote the background the way I wrote it, and so that's pretty straightforward. There is a little. This is through the chair to the acting mayor, of course, because he wasn't on the board when I originally tried to tackle this, but now that he is, and he's the acting mayor, I just want to get. So what I really wanted to do, Terry, and we had it approved by this body, and we had approved by the DPW. I really wanted to make it a dedicated left-hand turn into Kmart Plaza and have the right lane be a travel lane going west up towards the mall. That was just at the turn when Yem Lip was here and Mike McManus was coming on board, and we all understood what was going on, but we didn't have the resources to construct it at the time. But and I don't want, while I do want to revisit that, Mr. Acting Mayor, I don't want to revisit it now, only because Kmart is in transition. It doesn't have, it has an owner, but it doesn't have a purpose at this juncture. I'm just hearing all sorts of rumors about what may be or what could be, but the fact is it's owned by a pretty wealthy businessman from Fairfield County, and I'm not sure what he's going to do with all the properties he owns that were formerly Sears and Kmart's and all that. And until we get a clearer picture, I mean, I had calls for out of state people. I mean, way out of state people asking me if I would support a zone change for some pretty ridiculous, I felt ridiculous uses, perfectly legal uses, but they weren't in line with the prominence of what that building is and what that property is on a very prominent area of the community, particularly Route 5 and Whiting Farms. So and its close proximity to Route 91, only a mile away at most. So for the meantime, again, this is through the chair to the acting mayor. For the meantime, I know the acting mayor brought this to my attention. And I appreciate it. And so for right now, I think this is about as good as we're going to get. The left-hand turn, so the committee's aware, into that plaza are hourly, 18 hours a day. And if they're not going left-hand turn, they're going to do a U-turn in Station 5, which is even more of a hazard, but for dumb luck that the doors haven't opened when a car was there looking to make a U-turn, and the vehicles were all pouring out. At least I haven't heard of an example to that effect, and that's just pure dumb luck. So the hope is that we can now have an ordinance that can now go to the police department, and that when they issue a ticket, and if somebody appeals it, tough luck. So that's just for your consideration, Terry, down the road. Who knows what'll happen down the road, but for right now, I thank the acting mayor for bringing this to my attention, and I hope that we can pass it as is. Thank you.
So I didn't catch who came up first, so
I always defer to the
Ladies
distinguished counselor from Ward 5.
ladies
You
first.
can go to the mayor first. It's fine with
The
me.
distinguished
Ladies
counselor from
first.
Ward 5. You got it, Linda.
Councilor Bacon, please.
I was only going to offer a motion to approve the legal form and recommend adoption to the city council.
And before we do that, then we can hear Terry and see.
Okay. So, and I want to thank Councilor Bartley. He brought some information from the people that are trying to figure out what to do with the Kmart Plaza and some issues that were there. And that's when I ended up working with the police to say, you know, we need to get out there and potentially provide some tickets, because there were people getting concerned about people violating and speeding, not even worrying about people coming down. So when I did that, the police came and they indicated how many tickets they had given out and how every one of them got thrown out of court because we never had filed the actual ordinance. The signs went up, but there was no ordinance to couple with that. So I appreciate Council Bartley taking this up. I brought it to his attention. He immediately did it. I know the owner of Kmart, that was one of the things they were looking at. I also want to thank the fire department, because they've also gone and tried to help figure out what we can do to try to clean up some of the back, which is preventing, which is not looking very good. And police asked them to have a no trespassing order, which I believe the owners have given to the police, so that we have some authority to remove people from the property in terms of mostly in behind those buildings. And there was a lot of stuff, but I'm still working on it. I know Council Bartley is working on it, and I've been in communication a few times with the people, and they haven't come back as of to tell me any more plans, but I know that those things were what they were looking for. I know they've had communications with police and fire and with my office and with Council Bartley. So hopefully they're going to get something that's going to come in there and reinvigorate, if that's the proper word, the area, and maybe we get someone in there and then we start making some repairs in terms of the parking lot and other things. I think they would like to do that, but they're not going to do it until they know they got some investment coming in there. So, but we try to clear up their issues as best we can. And I'll keep, I take a drive by behind there a couple of times just to kind of see how things are looking. Every now and then it looks a little better, but then a few days later, it's back to where we were. So, but I appreciated the notice that Council Bartley, and he did copy me on it, and I immediately got in touch with those people. So this is one of the results, and hopefully we'll have other positive results as we go along.
Is that a second?
That's a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it's been adopted, right?
To send to the council.
Yep, and set the city council. So that's a 4-0. And I'm not sure.
Item 6. No?
Okay, I wasn't sure because I have an old agenda and it doesn't have the 6 on there, but yes, so 6. Did I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's 4 out of 0. Okay, so let me go back to the new. Okay, so item number 6 is from yours truly, Anderson Burgos. Councilor Anderson Burgos ordered that section 86-321 of the city's parking ordinance be amended by striking the following section: Northampton Street East, A, 20 feet north of Center Street, A, 200 feet north of Center Street, and 2-hour parking 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
You're saying Center Street or Courser Street?
That's weird because it should be Northampton Street, but it
says north of Courser.
Of Courser Street, north of Courser Street. Yes, so okay. It's not Courser Street; it's north of Courser Street. So as a maker, I mean, I can weigh in on what's happening here, and the owner of the business located at this address has reached out to me. I can't even count how many times because of the issues. Now, when Councilor Bartley had filed this order, I was in agreement with it, but unfortunately, I didn't take it into consideration the amount of time that it would take for an emergency surgery or any of that into fact. You know, I didn't put that into the factor. And so it's created this chaos on that street. And as a city councilor, my job shouldn't be to make a business lose business and have issues with that business. Did any of the committee members have anything to say before I recognize the maker of the order, the original order?
I have a question.
Sure, Councilor Bacon.
So I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So we implemented 2-hour parking so that people couldn't park there all day. Was that what we did?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was that the people would park to use the local area, but not constantly keep them unavailable to the public.
Right.
Was that the goal?
Yeah, well, you'd have to see the maker of the order, the original order that set them, that put them there, that placed the
right.
for 2 hours.
Right, but was that your understanding of why it was done in the first place?
I also recall, if I remember correctly, it had to also do with the bank associated next door to the business.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah. Any other committee members? Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, so I pose this in the strongest terms possible. So this is Dr. Lackman-Donnie.
Yeah.
Who's you know, to all due respect to Dr. Lackman-Donnie, this is 2-hour parking, and it's a public safety issue that was recognized by all of us unanimously just last year. And I specifically had the Ward 6 council, and the business in which it's in front is a Ward 6 business. It is People's United Bank. And so there were numerous accidents and near accidents, fender benders, because cars park in front of the Courser Street corner at Courser Northampton Street, directly in front of People's United, where it is virtually impossible to see the northbound traffic on Route 5 that is just starting to accelerate and over the speed limit, going past Courser Street and going past the exit to People's United Bank. So I hope you can picture that on in your mind or on a map. So Dr. Lackman-Donnie may have a patient or two a week that may have to have a matter that goes beyond the 2-hour limit. I would remind Dr. Lackman-Donnie, if he was here, and the maker of the order, there is ample parking directly across the street from Dr. Lackman-Donnie. There's ample parking on Bay State Avenue, free parking across Northampton Street. Perhaps the remedy would be to put a mid-block crosswalk in there with a reflective sign for motorists, similar to what we have at South Street. But to throw the baby out with the bathwater, to me is I mean, it's favoring one businessman over the general public safety. I know Dr. Lackman-Donnie doesn't like it, but let's face facts. He is on a public way with ample free parking in front of his business, but now what he wants, I want all the parking in front, not just of my business, I want all the free parking in front of the abutting business. The abutting business feels it's a 2-hour, and I just talked to him today, the managers at People's United, the abutting business feels this has been a major improvement to their customer safety, and that is an incredibly busy branch. The last point is the parking was being swallowed up by Holyoke Medical Center staff and patients. You might note, those who haven't been down Courser Street, Holyoke Medical Center wiped out 2 buildings, just demolished them, and now they built more parking. And all they want is more parking, but even that's not going to satisfy them because they're still spilling out onto Courser Street. The only reason not on Northampton Street is because we have what I feel is a reasonable sign. Now, what could be an amendment I mean, Dr. Lockman-Donnie, I mean, he's a gentleman and he's an icon of Holyoke. So all due respect, but you could potentially say 3-hour parking. I wouldn't go beyond that because then you're getting to the point where it's almost ridiculous to monitor it for police. But we felt, and this is just last year, this is not like 17 years ago. So we felt like 2-hour parking, it works well. It works well for the bank customers. It works well for people that need to go in and out of, if they can't get to 10 Hospital, they park nearby. They at least have some kind of parking on Corso or Northampton Street. You know, God forbid they got to walk 200 feet, but I know it's hard to do. But Dr. Lockman-Donnie's patients, they're ambulatory. They can, if necessary, they can cross Northampton Street, either parking on the southbound side of Northampton Street or parking on Bay Street. I really feel that this ordinance is in place. It's working well, and to just throw it out for the doctor's sake, I don't think that's within the public gambit, and I think this ought to be denied.
Joe, did you want to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd just like to continue with Councilor Bartley's thoughts about Holyoke Medical Center. I mean, let's face it, as a community, we're lucky to have such a strong history of a hospital, you know, within our community that performs at a high level that is incredible. But Holyoke Medical Center has refused to do what other hospitals in the area, Bay State, a number of different hospitals do, so that they don't have to encroach on the neighborhoods for parking purposes, is to build their own parking deck. And that's because the cost of the parking deck is out of reach. But who's going to suffer more? I mean, each time one of those houses comes down, the city loses property tax. The neighborhood becomes a parking lot. I mean, this isn't just Corser Street. You know, this is every street surrounding the Holyoke Medical Center itself is becoming a parking lot. You know, you go up to Portland Street, you go across behind the synagogue, you know, people from the hospital are parking there all day long. So I understand the concerns of the doctor, but the 2-hour parking, the idea is, you know, not to let someone who's working in the hospital park that far away from the hospital and take away a spot from a residential area or another commercial area itself. So I think we gotta, you know, put the olive branch out and talk with Spiro about, you know, it's time to build a parking deck.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's plenty of money out there where I think you could find some, with the right research, find some money from the federal government to help them out. You know, hospitals are great, but we don't get tax dollars from them. You know, we have Holyoke Hospital, the former Providence Hospital is a BHN. We don't get taxes from them. And to get a slap in the face, Mayrock's company, which was, you know, I'm sorry, not Mayrock's company, the old Wang building, which was the savior of Holyoke many decades ago, is now the lab for Bay State. No property tax. Something's got to give. You know, we're just getting our not-for-profits are eating up the way we generate the revenue we need to provide our services and to survive as a city. And something's just got to give. We've got to change the formula and look at it different from the state on down to the municipalities.
So I'm wondering if one of the committee members would be willing to entertain a motion for me that I table this item, because I like the idea that what Councilor Bartley mentioned about the 3-hour, just to have that conversation with Dr. Lachandati. Is that how you say it? Like, I feel bad.
Lockman-Donnie.
Okay. And just to reach out to him, because what I'm trying to do is just make it work for everyone. And so I'm wondering if someone would make the motion.
I'll make a motion to table.
Well,
Second.
just before you do that,
Sure.
just to the Ward 6 counselor, if I may.
Yeah.
You know, you need to reach out to People's United Bank. So you got Michelle in there, you've got Carol in there, you've got lovely people in there that park in a parking lot and obey all the rules. And they look out their window and see their customers I mean, look at it. I mean, Juan, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Just go through the lot and pretend that there's 3 or 4 cars parked on the northbound side, pulling out of People's United Bank, and you're trying to pull out of there. And then now you're angling and do it and don't do it at 4 in the morning. I mean, do it during the middle of business day. And so try to angle your way out, and you have cars barreling down the northbound side.
Okay.
I mean, and for what? So Dr. Lakhmandani can have parking all day long. So Holyoke Medical Center can have parking all day long. It's contrary to public safety. I don't think this is a winner. I think it's just Dr. Lakhmandani not wanting to have a change. I'm sorry, but this is brought to my attention, and as a public safety matter, that overrides the one special needs of a business, who, by the way, respectfully, as I said, he can park across the street. In fact, he can park his car across the street and let his patients use his driveway. He can walk himself across the street and park there comfortably. And the car can park there 24 hours if he wants. So I think it's unreasonable, but you need to investigate that yourself and then go from there.
Councilor Barley, did you say Michelle from People's United?
Yeah, Michelle's a manager.
Okay.
Carol's a manager. So these are lovely, lovely people. But Carol is very, very aware of this. In fact, she's the one who brought it to my attention a couple years ago.
I'll meet with her, and then I'll meet with the doctor. I just want to make sure everybody's taken care of. Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. So the intention behind my motion to table was so that you'd be able to have an opportunity to do that. And if the greater good for the need for safety outweighs the convenience concerns of one, then maybe it'll just be resolved to let it continue in the way that it is for the near future, since we almost just started doing it.
Right.
So that's my hope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So we'll just have it tabled. Wait, let's get a second.
There's no second.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I will look into that. I will speak with Michelle and Carol from United Bank and get this resolved. And so I think that's, so.
Motion to adjourn, or second, if you already said it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I want to say thank you guys so much. This was dropped on my lap the last minute. Thank you for working with me. I appreciate you all. Have a beautiful evening, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
Did a good job, Juan.
Have a good night.
Have a good night,
Have a
guys.
good
Night,
night.
everybody. Nice job, Juan.
Night.
Thank you.